Hi, it's Simon, and this is going to be a super speedy and accessible guide to the best ways to take notes in Notion. Simple. Now, whether that means you are creating digital notebooks, organising meeting notes, gathering web clippings, or even automatically sending your quotes and highlights from things like Kindle straight to Notion, I'm going to help you do it. Now, I'm going to break down how I use my Notion Life OS templates to organise notes and clippings, the third-party extensions that I swear by to make quick capture super easy, and most importantly, how to ensure that you then actually link your notes back to the tasks and projects that will actually result in a meaningful output. So, you know, no more scraps of paper in the back pocket that you lose and go to nowhere. And whilst these are great one-off videos for you Notion-interested note takers, it's also a handy step-by-step guide to using my complete Notion Life OS templates as well. And on that note, nice, or terrible, I'm not sure. Make sure to check out my Notion Life OS templates and Notion playlists for the best templates and tutorials to help you get organized in Notion. You can find the links in the description, but let's just say I have spent years now building the ultimate Notion setups I can think of, so you guys can fast track to your own with all the support I can offer around it. Now, before we get into the really cool stuff, this is the quick way to take notes in Notion. Use a template or start with a database. Let's have a look. Now, this is my Life OS, and what I have in here is actually, if I go to here, a dashboard for how I'm keeping notes with an inbox, notebooks in various views with the notes within them, and I have a full set of different views by things like by project or whatever else. But the simplest way to take notes in Notion is then to actually start with a simple page like this. I would call it Notebooks or My Notes. I'd add a cover, and then I will start with an empty page. I also really like to make them full width. I think this is good because then you can start to mess around with it. And then in the page, I'm just going to do a /database in line. You call this My Notes, and you really just need the name. I would change this one to subject tags for you to be able to just relate them to things like, or maybe it's, and so on. Now, I personally really like to add a property for when it was created, and if you share your workspace with someone, you might also like something like created by. I also personally like last edited time, and this just could be hidden away in your view, but it's just really useful. You can create reports on that. For example, if you click on here, you can just hide it in the view if you don't want to see it. The other thing you definitely are going to need in a notes thing is probably a URL if it's going to be a place that you want to save links or references to it. But probably the most useful thing in a notes database is then to actually create a relation that actually links to something like your projects database. So if I was to add that, I would then be able to link those notes to specific projects and then see views of those notes in the projects. But that's really all you need. The second thing that I would do is if I open up the new page, is it's pretty blank. So I personally would also create yourself a new note template, and I would just call this new note template. You can pre-format it with whatever you want, but I would add an icon and I'm gonna add my cover. And so that means you can set that one to default. So if I now just delete these, every time you create a new note, you'll see it come up as a template and you can rename it. You could also set within here things like key points, you could do /heading 3, and so on and so forth. You could do all that in a template, and that's really simple to do. So the final thing you might like to do when you're building your own note-taking system is using a button to create a new note quickly, or even this that I'm using for new notebook and note, which I'll show you a little bit later. So to do that is really simple. You might go in here, do /button, add the button, and I want to add a page in and select this database here, which we'll call, for reference, there we go. Select the database, there it is, and you can use your new notes template that you created, and you want to edit the property, you could edit it or add something in there, but I'm also going to add one more step to that, which is also to open the page I want it to be the new page that's added in Centerpeak. We call that add a new note, for example, and here we can do it. Click done, and then when I click that, it will bring up the new note. And there you go. Nice quick way to take notes. So that's the very basics of note taking. And this is where my system has ended up, a notes and notebook database and a knowledge and clippings database. So you might choose to just keep everything in one place, like I have in something like my simplified Notion template here, but I like the idea of personal notes in one and then clippings and quotes essentially from other people's ideas in another. So if you actually own one of these LifeOS templates, I reckon make a call. Do you want one or the other or both? And then you can adapt it to your needs. But if you are a LifeOS template user and just want to keep things simple with one database, I would recommend using the knowledge database for your notes and clippings in one place. More on that in the next video in this series too. So let me show you great ways to do this, and you can choose which one of these approaches to note-taking inspires you for your workspace. So let's focus on the notes database. If I click into my menu here, I'm going to go to the notebooks page. Now the way I've built this for users that are wanting to learn this, or maybe you want to do the same, is I've got different filtered views, and if I show the database title, of the notes database. So if we click through to the notes database, we have all the views here, including a system view. There are kind of main items with sub items to those items in the databases. And I'm using main items as notebooks and then sub items as new notes. You can relate it to the knowledge bank if you're doing it in separate databases, relate things to projects, areas and resources. So if you're grouping things by, say, subject of business for resources, or maybe an area in your life which is productivity and organization, you can do that. This is all, fine, but it's pretty tricky to navigate just in a database. So what I've done is create a notebooks dashboard. So these filtered views show me specific things using the filters, such as if it has a status set and if it is a quick note or in a parent notebook. And this just means it will show me anything that is either in my quick notes notebook, given that the new notes we add are going to be subtasks, or it will give me new notes that don't have a notebook. So to drop it into the system, I would need to remove it from my quick notes and add it to a different notebook, and it disappears. Simple as that. We then have notebooks, which is a kind of reporting view of the main items in the database. So I've got things like my recipe book, learning Notion, theatre show planning, all of that. And then we've got different views. So we've got like all the notes ever in the system. We've got notes filtered by this month, highlighted notes that I might have highlighted. You can view them by project that they've been related to, all very cool. And then you have quick links to my journal, which is a different database where you can journal, and my notes database, which is the source to it. More on the journal at another time in another video. Now, if you're finding this useful, drop me a little like, because, well, it's a nice thing to do, isn't it? And I'd appreciate it. Cheers. So the process of adding personal notes in my system is like this. I can either create a new notebook and a first note. This is an automated button that will create a master item, which is a notebook, and then give me a first note as a sub item where the parent item is the notebook, and create those two. So if I do that, for example, we'll see there's the new notebook. So we could call this one, that's my cat's toy plans, right? I can make that a new notebook, and this first draft here is the first note within it. So when we then close that up, that will have gone straight into my notebooks and not into the inbox. If you want to take a note, I would click New Quick Note and make the note. For example, you could call it a new note, and then I can remove it from Quick Notes if I actually want to link it to a specific subject matter. So I can drop it in there. I can add any subject tags like that. Content creating, for example, as I work, and I could even link it to projects like my YouTube channel, and then I can put ideas into the page, and then all the usual kind of / Notion behavior is there. You can add your images and whatever else. So that's how you might add your note. And then if you have added it to a notebook it will disappear from the inbox, and that would be a nice way to work. But you might do this. New quick note. This is a cool idea. Make it a quick note and drop thoughts into it and just leave it like that. And then it's just in there waiting to go. It's done, the note is taken. Then when you want to sort out your inboxes on the Life OS, you can also into Process, go to Notes, see everything in this view as well, which is really cool. And then I can just quickly remove it from Quick Notes and drop it into Theatre Show Planning, and it's in the notebook. There you go. And then whenever I want to view my notes, I would always go to my notebooks dashboard, and I can go into the notebooks, and you can see how many entries are in each one with this nice little report, and go, oh yeah, that theatre show planning, where is it? Ah, the new idea for the video, great. And actually, I want to make that a priority highlight so I can view it more easily. So you could jump in here, go into highlighted notes, and see it in there as well, which is pretty cool. So let me just briefly talk you through the most useful and key properties here. We've got a status, which allows us to either make something a new notebook or note. We can set notes to being priority or live, or we can archive them, and that will clear them from the views. We have the title of the note, we have the notebook. If you want a note to go inside a notebook, it can have a parent notebook. We've got subject tags so that you can do a quick filter, for example, and just do it by subject tag in any view. And then you would see only stuff that is linked to that view, which is quite nice. And then you have an areas and resources relation and a project relation, which I'll show you in a little bit. But that is how I take notes in these notebooks. Now, perhaps the truest meaning of a second brain is a place to hold ideas and information so that you don't have to in your actual brain, right? And that is the perfect explanation of one of these notes databases in Notion. Keeping one will mean that you've always got a place to drop that reference or idea, knowing it will come back to you at the right place in the right time if you work out how to use it properly. Now, most importantly, a digital system like this can also then be linked to your projects so that you actually use those things you capture later on down the line. And let me show you how that works. So perhaps the most important part about using a note-taking system like this is, I would say, this box here, related projects. This means that you are able to relate an entire notebook to a related project, or relate specific notes to related projects. So for example, I might actually want to put this new video idea into my Learning Notion notebook. And actually, I might want to link it to my YouTube channel project. Now what that means is, when I jump into the new video idea, there it is, I can look at the ideas, there they are, haha, but I could also jump into the project, and in that project see things like tasks that are in progress or to do, or everything that I've completed on it, pretty cool. But also I can then go into this view down here, resources for the project, and see that the actual note is linked back into that page. So this is a filtered view here of the notes database, and it's filtered by, as you might guess, the project it's related to. Now, the power of this is not to be underestimated. What it means is that you can link specific information, for example, in a knowledge bank that you've gathered from the internet, back to a specific project, or as I do in my content creation, actually link ideas to those content creation projects in the Creative OS. So if you have the bundle of my template, I could, for example, bring up a view in here, relate to Content OS if I want it in that view. I can then also, for example, take, let's say, thoughts on Notion and link it to this video idea, productive creativity. So I can link it to that. I can then jump through to that project, which is in my Creative OS, and then you can see it within that project. Really cool. So that is the power of using relations to relate, let's say, projects related content that you're using in the Content OS to your notebooks. And the same goes for the knowledge bank as well. Now, on the subject of projects, another option, if you didn't want to use this approach of subtasks and tasks in your note-taking system would be actually to do something like I've done in my simplified Notion template, which is to actually use projects as the notebooks themselves. So I could go into my notes and clippings and then just use the related projects for you to link things to it. So for example, this new note, I might link it to personal growth, and then when I jump into personal growth, I can, for example, create a template that involves a table view of the notes and clippings database, and I can make sure that that is filtered where related project contains the page that it's on. And then I will see that new note linking into the personal growth page. Pretty cool. That could be the way to do it. And if you wanted a notebooks view, you might create a new view here of notes and clippings, for example, that view, and group by related projects. And then you can kind of have notebooks operating like that, which I think is a really great way to do it. So you could call this something like project notebooks. Really nice way to do it. And if there's nothing related, you could just hide that view. And then you've got a great way of viewing notebooks by project. Another way to do that would be to actually find the projects database, projects overview, and the properties, we can just go related notes and clippings and just hide a load of this other stuff that we don't need. There you go. And then you would just see the notes in there and you could create yourself a report. So that would be another way, and we could filter this by, add an advanced filter where related notes and clippings is not empty. And then that would be a really beautiful way to hide the database view. That's the other way that you could see your notes. Project notebooks. So there's many ways to do this. My approach in LifeOS has been to use relations, because what I think is really helpful about my project pages, if we jump in and have a little look at one of these, say something like my YouTube channel again, my project page actually has links to loads of stuff. It links through to my income for that project, for example. It links to the tasks completed, the live tasks that are there. You can link it to areas and resources, and then you can see all of your related notes. And that all happens within a template that has pre-filtered views of resources and pages and clippings and all of that. So that's a really great way to use relations to filter stuff. And the final point on that, if you're using LifeOS, would be to just be aware that you can also link notes in your notebooks to related areas or resources. Areas are grey and resources are purple in this template. So I can link it to whatever area I want. Here we've got Learning Notion. I've linked it to productivity and organisation. So then if you go to the Para dashboard down here, you can see under resources, the productivity and organisation resource. You can click into it and you will see everything related to that resource. And there it is, Learning Notion under notes. Contacts could be down there. And then I've got all of my related journal entries that link to this resource. And the same goes for areas. You can just link it to an area, and then if we jump into the business area, you can then see under here, let's actually open that up into a full page, you'll be able to see this better. There you go. There are the notes that link to it, there are the clippings, all within that. Now what I've done with areas is also link resources that are related to that area. So I can not only see projects to that area, but I can go, there is a resource, which is business strategies, as well as these specific things that are linked. So I can also jump through to the resource then and see everything within that. So it's just, you use this as much as you like or as little as you like, but it's a way of being able to organize and filter views of information. Now it's worth saying, if that's too much for you and you're using the Life OS, just ignore it. Keep it simple, aim for one of those databases to collect your notes and clippings. Okay, next we can focus more on how to collect quotes and clippings. Maybe you're a student, a writer, a researcher, or a creator like me, and you need to link ideas and stuff that you discover back to the things that you are working on yourself in the moment that you discover them. We'll cover how to organize research, web clippings, and quotes from different sources, and some great ways to supercharge how you quickly collect and then send stuff straight to what I call a knowledge bank. It's like a database of stuff, basically. Links, quotes, all of that. We can use tools like Save to Notion, Command Browser, and services like Readwise and even Shortform, and you'll be able to find that in the next video in this guide series on using Notion as your second brain. And on that note, if you'd like to learn more about that entire Notion workspace that I've developed across projects, notes, tasks, goal setting, finance, content creation, habit tracking, and all the rest, don't forget you can check out a full in-depth tour of this complete life operating system that I've built completely in Notion and download it at bettercreating.com. See the links below. So I've created a powerful and easy to use system that is truly all in one place. It's designed around David Allen's seminal productivity workflow from Getting Things Done, Tiago Forte's Power Method, and it is really the ultimate second brain that I genuinely use every day to organize my life. There's also a load of supporting playlists of guide videos, a user community Discord where you can get further help and talk to other users, and I'm planning further community only resources. So this really is a great bet. And the great thing is you can check them out with a proper returns policy too. So jump over to bettercreating.com and check them out. Now, next up, if you fancy seeing what a day in my life looks like using Notion, check out this classic up here, or you could watch more of my Notion content down here. It would be awesome if you subscribed. If you haven't, amazing if you left a comment and a like, and I better get back to creating. Bye.